Greetings, LEGO fans. In case you haven't noticed already, I'm a huge fan of LEGO trains. I mean, it's what got this channel started after all. After picking up, reviewing, and motorizing the new downtown streetcar that was released on August 1st, I wanted to find a way to integrate it into my growing shelf city. The problem was, there just wasn't room for it. At 16 inches deep, the shelf is just enough to accommodate a standard modular building and a road plate, so adding a train track was out of the question. Or was it? Though the depth of the shelf was maxed out, I still had plenty of vertical space to work with, so the idea of taking the rail system under the city was born. With shelves of this depth, simply mounting another one to the wall just a few inches down was not really going to work, so I decided to go with a drop-down platform that would just attach to the existing shelf. But before I dove into that, I wanted to do a bit of future-proofing. For a while now, I've had the intention of extending the shelf city all the way to the end of the wall, maximizing every inch of space available. So I took this as the perfect opportunity to do just that. With just one extra shelf bracket and a new, longer project board, this ended up giving me an extra 2.5 base plates of horizontal space to work with. Around the same time, I scored a huge block of nougat masonry brick on the pab wall at the LEGO store, and decided to use it as a facade to hide the shelf entirely. It also gives off the appearance that this portion of the city is built up behind a retaining wall, and I think it looks way better than just the bare shelf on its own. With that done, it was time to tackle the drop-down platform for the subway. I'll admit, I'm not an experienced woodworker or builder, so I usually just kind of make things up as I go. I didn't want to spend a ton of money, so I opted to try and use as much of what I already had as possible. After weighing my options, I decided to keep my design simple, using a single 1x10 board suspended under the main shelf with the use of a handful of 6-inch 2x4s. The width of my newly expanded city is 130 inches, or just under 11 feet, so I hit up the home improvement store and grabbed a 12-foot 1x10. I had planned to cut it down to size at home, but it couldn't fit in my van, so I had to take it back into the store for them to cut it. How embarrassing. I already had the amount of 2x4 I needed, so it was just a matter of grabbing the miter saw and cutting them down to perfectly equal 6-inch blocks. Once all the wood elements were sanded and given a first coat of paint, it was time to assemble the whole platform. I went with a pair of 2x4 supports on each side and an additional 2 spread equidistantly in the middle. Once it was all assembled, the hardest part was getting this heavy platform in place underneath the shelf. I ended up just using random household objects to hoist it up, and though it was not exactly an elegant solution, it worked just fine. After obsessively checking that everything was in line and level, it was time to commit and attach it at each support point, clearing plenty of space on top so I didn't damage any LEGO. To my surprise, the platform felt extremely sturdy on the first try and didn't need any additional 2x4s for support. Since the shelf is supported by 6 sturdy metal shelf brackets, each attached to a stud in 4 places, I don't think it's going to have any trouble supporting this platform, even if it is a bit heavy. A few more coats of paint and the platform was ready to go. The fun really began when it came time to integrate this new platform with the existing city. The most obvious and needed integration was a way for the minifigures to walk down to the subway level. To serve this purpose, I built 2 little identical station entrances to go on either end of the existing city, and some 3-part winding staircases that lead down to the station platforms. I actually had a couple of transit logo pieces available from past deconstructed trains, so they were perfect to put on top. I eventually planned to have studs covering the whole ground of the subway with all sorts of station expansions and storytelling, but for now I don't quite have the resources for that. As such, the bottom of these stairwells are just secured with some poster tack. It might be a bit tacky, but hey, it works for now. I also plan to eventually have 2 tracks running in parallel, but seeing as how my train track bin is currently nothing but curves and flex, it's gonna have to wait. Naturally, it's a bit dark underneath the shelf, so the final thing I wanted to add for some extra zhuzh was some lighting. I first tried some LED strip lights, but honestly, they didn't end up looking very good. I eventually decided to go with these LED puck lights. They came in a pack of 6 for just $30 at my local home improvement store, so they seemed worth a try. I ended up really liking them, as they actually look like large, practical dome lights at minifigure scale, and add some much-needed visual interest. After spacing them evenly and attaching them, I think they look great. They can also change colors, which gives me the option to change up the look from time to time, or use the red for emergency lights. The possibilities are endless. Given the set I'm using as the train, technically this is an underground streetcar instead of a subway. But my motorized version of this great new set from LEGO looks right at home here, and my 5-year-old in particular loves playing with it. Now that everything's built and in its proper place, it seemed like a good time to give you a tour of the updates to my city. I moved the Palace Cinema over to the corner, which is where I've always wanted it, but the TV used to be in the way. Then, of course, right next to it, the Parisian restaurant. And in between the Parisian restaurant and the bookshop, I put a little park with a fountain. I thought that added a good little bit of green space and a place for minifigures to hang out. Then, of course, there's the bookshop on either side of the mock of our house. And I recently picked up this little guy. This is the rally car from 1987, which I thought was a nice vintage addition to the city. The rest of the city is very similar to how it was laid out before. A couple things have slightly shifted, but the town hall is still right in the middle. And you've got the Assembly Square and the Daily Bugle. And the airport has made another appearance here. Because the shelf is now wider, I needed something to fill that space while I wait for more modulars to come in. Then, of course, there's the entrance to the subway. The stairs go all the way down and allow minifigures access to this subway platform, which looks appropriately dumpy. Then over here, I actually have this little New York postcard, which I previously didn't really have a place for, which kind of gave me the idea that it might be fun to put little miscellaneous sets or art pieces down here so that there's something to look at for people who are riding the subway. I'm not sure how far I'll take that idea, but it's something interesting to think about. Then there's a maintenance vehicle right here, and the train itself. Then, of course, over here, there's the station platform that came with the downtown streetcar set with the coffee shop. Then back up the stairs again, and we hit our other subway entrance. And we're back up at ground level. That is the city as it stands now. I'm so happy I was able to turn this idea into a reality, and I'm very excited to update you on future improvements to this and all other aspects of my shelf city. To stay up to date on all my new videos, make sure to subscribe, and as always, keep building.